and that Trump is not going away, and you can't wish him away, and you have to take him seriously. Unprecedented. I don't know of any, at least recent incidents like this. It's strange. Obviously, you can't just buy people. You can invest in a population. You can invest in a country.
President Trump's obsession of Greenland moved from just calling it a national security need to now mocking the government of Denmark, country of Denmark, Greenland, people of Greenland, and much more. How is Greenland and how is Denmark going to respond to this? Should it come to a situation where Trump actually moves in to acquire, to invade, to get Greenland as a part of the United States of America? To discuss this and more, I'm being joined by former Denmark's envoy to India, Ambassador Svane Freddy. Ambassador Freddy, thank you so much for joining us here on the network. These are, I should say, not interesting, but very difficult times when we're looking at Denmark, NATO, Europe. What's your reading on the latest that comes from Donald Trump, where he's moved it a step forward, and not just talking about national security interests, but saying China and Russia have to leave and Denmark can't do it, US will have to step in?
Thank you very much indeed for inviting me into this discussion. I think we have to keep facts in mind here. Of course, you have US and with the new national security strategy, they are really increasing the pressure to secure that their interests are being taken care of. And obviously, the Arctic, Greenland, and so forth has come really in the middle of that discussion. As you will know, as we speak, there is a meeting between the Vice President, J.D. Vance, and the Danish Foreign Minister and the Greenlandic Foreign Minister. And hopefully they will be able to sort out what constitutes facts here, or what are kind of sentiments, emotions rising high in a very tense discussion. So, of course, if you cut all that down to the bottom line, what stands out is, of course, that US and US President has stated very clearly that they want Greenland one way or another. And that goes, of course, against all the red lines that you could imagine. Greenland is part of the Kingdom of Denmark. We are Greenland, Denmark, and so forth. We are a member of NATO, and US is also a member of NATO, not to say the leading part of NATO. So it's a big discussion within a family. I think we should not be taken by all the sentiments and statements. We have to look into how to settle that in a dialogue. It might be tense dialogue, but it's also important really to know each other and have this frank discussion, which will happen behind closed doors. But obviously, if someone, even your grandfather, wants to take away something, your house or whatever, it constitutes a real problem. And in real time and in geopolitical terms, this is something unprecedented.
Well, absolutely, Ambassador Freddy. And we'll talk about the precedents that President Trump is setting out here, given the fact that Greenland has always been very important to the United States of America. But these engagements and diplomacy aside, what are the options that Denmark actually has when it comes to Greenland and a confrontation with the US?
I think you can't just say Denmark. First and foremost is the Kingdom of Denmark. And beyond that, and also given all the statements from the European partners, whether being part of the European Union or NATO as such. So we are not alone in that context. But if you again look into the bottom of all these things, then what is the way forward if this pressure continues, and whatever we have done from the Danish side, if that is not really deemed sufficient by the US side, then If you look into it, of course, Greenland is a part of the kingdom, so they can't just leave the kingdom. Then there are a lot of procedures that will have to be followed and so forth. Yesterday, the Prime Minister of Greenland stated very clearly here in Copenhagen that, seen from his point of view, Greenland will stay within the Kingdom of Denmark. So that is the end to that discussion, obviously. Whether US will accept it or not, that's a different question, obviously. But we also know, and we have seen over the years, that the Greenlandic people, they have a taste for independence, say. And our Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, has said repeatedly that it's up to the Greenlandic people to decide which kind of future they want. So there are a lot of unknowns here, but there are also a lot of knowns. So how to navigate in all that I think we'll have to look into when the actual situation arises where a choice has to be made. But hopefully that choice does not have to be made under pressure or following statements and so forth.
A position as harsh as this one, Ambassador Freddy, would this mean the end of NATO or the end of NATO as we know it?
Ultimately, yes. I don't see that as a bad thing necessarily. We have also learned from the war in Ukraine that Europe needs to step up its own security. We have also heard President Trump and others stating very clearly that NATO is not just a US taxpayers-run organization. We have to contribute. And many countries, including Denmark, have now followed a very clear message that we have to pay for our own security and thereby also, let's say, secure that NATO can survive. But in the longer run, it might be beneficial for those, including me, who would like to see a strong, independent Europe who can take care of its own security. So in that context, it's not just a bad thing. But the NATO, as we see it, following whatever comes out of the discussions ongoing between Denmark, Greenland, and on the other side, US, of course, will have a very strong impact on what is the future, what kind of future we look into. And if I read whatever the president of US is saying constantly, he wants his own security secured, and has less appetite for NATO as such. But let's see when it comes to the real decisions, whether that will stand or it's just a posturing or a way of putting pressure on others.
Well, Ambassador Freddy, when President Trump had said it during his first term that he wants Greenland, he was mocked at, made fun of, but the jokes are over. This is real. And he has to be taken seriously in what he wants and how he wants it. We've seen it firsthand when it comes to Venezuela. And now, clearly, he thinks Greenland is essential to secure America's national interests and security.
Right, you are. Just take a look on the map and you'll see where Greenland geographically is placed. And from that, you will easily understand why there is a lot of focus also from the US president in particular on Greenland, how to secure the backyard of US, so to say. On the other hand, you also have to understand that US could have done far more. They reduced heavily the number of troops over the years that they can have, and there are no restrictions to it as such, following the agreement from 1951 and so forth. So there are a lot of things that perhaps has not come to the fore here. I think you are right in what you are saying. I was in Copenhagen for the annual ambassadors meet when Trump came out in his first tenure with this clear message: I want to buy Greenland, and we all thought that that was a crazy idea. And I think most people had come to the idea that, or conclusion rather, and when he was elected for his second tenure, that he would not go that far again. But one thing I think we all have to understand that Trump is not going away, and you can't wish him away, and you have to take him seriously. And that's why we also see these discussions, meetings happening now in Washington, really to find a solution to all that. And I hope we'll see a solution. If not, and ultimately, if we don't see a solution with increased rising tensions, that is not good for the world. It's not good for geopolitics. It's not good for security at large, and for the world economy, it will also have a negative impact. So a lot of stakes are really here. So let's hope and pray for a solution one way or not, but a negotiated solution in full faith from all sides involved.
Right, Ambassador Freddy, he has a very interesting way of putting things over here. It's not negotiation, but certainly the money is still on the table. He's talking about the 50,000 people who are in Greenland and buying them off, so on and so forth. It's radical. It's never been spoken, or Greenland has never been spoken like that before, although many presidents in the past have emphasized the importance of Greenland, the importance of maybe America even having Greenland. Or having control over Greenland, but none where they're actually putting money on the table for the people of Greenland.
Yeah, I think we still have to see a concrete offer with the money on the table, so to say. Of course, it's unprecedented. I don't know of any, at least recent incidents like this. It's strange. Obviously, you can't just buy people. You can invest in a population. You can invest in a country. You can invest in securing a better exploitation, if that's really the will, for instance, in Greenland and so forth. But to say, I want to buy this region or this nation, this country, that's historically a little bit out of the normal, I will say, to be modest.
All right. In terms of I know we are running out of time, but there are some military strategies that I'd like you to also talk about. In terms of the NATO coming together, sans America, this would be a fight between allies. Again, unprecedented. Never have we seen America or Europe be in such a situation where they're questioning their all-time partner, America, when it comes to security, and here security being threatened by that very same ally.
Right, you are. I think there are many more questions to be asked that we ever have experienced before. And it's sad that this happens within the family, so to say. But we all have to realize that the world order that we knew that came into functioning after the Second World War, that really was destroying or had destroyed Europe and so forth. And then we needed the security and umbrella and all that. But that world order has changed drastically. And we see it across the world that many countries are let's say, putting the mask, sitting in a cabin in an aircraft, and the pressure is going away. Then what do? Normally, you're told to put the mask on yourself first before helping others. So geopolitics have changed drastically, and therefore we have to look into how do we secure as a country, as a nation, as a region, or whatever we are part of, how do we secure our own interest? And I like this strategic autonomy, which you are extremely good at in India, where you define what is your interest, what does serve the economy best, the culture best, the population, the future, and all that. So perhaps you should have a Viksit Dunya in place so each and every nation could find a way towards a better, balanced, more sustainable world. Perhaps that could be a hope. But obviously unprecedented, and we have to see what comes out of the meetings and the dialogue. But since there is a meeting, then there's also a dialogue. So let's hope that common sense and facts will prevail also in this context.
With the ice melting, Arctic security and the Arctic Strait itself has become very important. Greenland Strait has become very important in that America says they need to secure their Arctic future. But there'd be many countries who'd be thinking the same way. Is Greenland the next theater for a conflict?
But right, you are. I mean, as I said earlier on, just take a look at the map. You can see where Greenland is, and we all know that the climate changes are also forcing the ice cap to melt and so forth. And there is a passage, so now you can more easily sail in these waters, and that will also have an impact on security. Of course, it will also have an impact on trade and the global economy. But it goes without saying, if you look into the map, it's the backyard of the North America, US in particular. So they are, of course, worried as to what can happen if we see other big powers sailing in these waters, trying also their best luck, either directly or indirectly. So you have to understand that it might be a theater where you'll see a lot of tensions, even conflicts in the future. But still, we need to keep the facts in mind and secure that there's dialogue. So, and especially within a family, and there are good traditions for that. So let's cross fingers and see and look towards an understanding that might secure whatever interest you have, whether being US, Greenland, Denmark, the Kingdom of Denmark, NATO, and the European Union. So don't give up the hope. Even though the ice is melting, the hearts are still warm in all theaters. And we still belong to the same big family. So let's hope there's one future for us. There's one family and one earth left for all of us and our future generations.
Right. Just two more questions before I let you go. One is that President Trump never just promises or says things, and that is the only thing that matters. Over here, we spoke about security, national security issues, but there's more to Greenland than just security. Is it the critical minerals? Is it what lies beneath the soil rather than what lies over the soil?
I mean, if you look into what constitutes the geostrategic considerations, of course, hardcore security is part of that, but also access to critical minerals. I think we have all learned that we can't have a new iPhone, we can't have a new iPad, we can't do whatever we like without access to critical minerals. And we know that Greenland has a lot of minerals that would be of interest for the future of all of us. So obviously there's a strong interest in these matters, and I think it's right so, because you have to do a calculation, where do we get the minerals, one place or another. And the COVID in fact taught us that we can't have just one supplier. So supply chains and supply chain management, or supply chain security, is perhaps the most important aspect of all this. Supply chain for security, supply chain for critical minerals, resources at large, and so forth. So there are a lot of things that we have to really to address jointly, hopefully.
And final question to you now, more to do with Greenland itself, the colonial past, historical past. It's not always been hunky-dory between Denmark and Greenland. There are many people who've also spoken of independence. How do you look at, and what's your reading of that, of the situation in Greenland, Greenland's ties with Denmark, and should they really want what they want in terms of freedom, then are we looking at all the countries then vying for that space in Greenland?
First and foremost, again, the Danish Prime Minister has said very clearly and repeatedly, it's for the Greenlandic population to decide what kind of future they want. So basically, that's the starting point. Secondly, as you have mentioned, over the years, and increasingly over the years, we have seen a very strong, let's say, hunger for independence. And of course, if that is going to happen, then we'll have also implications not only for the Kingdom of Denmark, but also how to place 50,000 people in this huge theater of tensions, potential tensions, and so forth. So obviously, I think a lot of people are saying, okay, it's fine, they want their independence, but can they really sustain that? Who's paying for it, and so forth? Thirdly, as you rightly mentioned, Denmark has been criticized quite vehemently by Greenlandic politicians and so forth for having really behaved like a colonial power, having exploited X, Y, Z, not listening to the Greenlandic population. But you also need to, in this context, to keep in mind the facts. Greenland got home rule in 1979, and in 2007, I think it was, sorry, I missed a little bit the number here, but then they got the home rule, which implies that they have full decision when it comes to almost all parts of the
autonomy. Yes.
It's called home rule. So, except for foreign policy and defense policy, which is a prerogative for the Kingdom of Denmark and preserve Denmark as such, the Greenlandic population has full independence. But of course, can you be independent if you can only make decisions related to health, education, environment, and so forth? Some will say yes, others will say no, that's not the real independence that we are seeking. So a lot of question marks here, and you have to look into what are the implications of all that. I think that's also one of the reasons that we have seen very, very recently that, for instance, the Greenlandic Prime Minister stated very clearly yesterday here in Copenhagen that Greenland would like to stay within the Kingdom of Denmark. It's a very strong, almost unprecedented message from the Greenlandic side. But everything is up in the air, and when the ice is melting, bubbles of oxygen are being released, and we don't know what is in these. If you get more oxygen, if you get new thoughts, or you're, let's say, re-energized, and perhaps that can lead to conclusions that are not, let's say, wished for or what we are looking for. But let's see.
Well, that's speaking with a lot of clarity, Ambassador Freddy. Thank you so much for joining me and explaining to our viewers where Greenland stands, where the Kingdom of Denmark stands, and in the face of such immense threat coming from various quarters, particularly the United States of America, how important it is for Greenlandic people and for the Kingdom of Denmark to secure their interests. Thank you so much for joining us here on India Today Global.
Thank you very much indeed. It was a pleasure being with you, putting some facts into the picture, and also expressing the hope for a dialogue. Dialogue, diplomacy, this is the future. Dhanyavad.
Speaking like an ambassador, truly.